I have the privilege of introducing Chris Policinski, who's president and CEO of Land O'Lakes. And Land O'Lakes has been involved with the Chicago Council for a long time, but more than that, they are engaged worldwide, around the world, in development efforts, and their leadership as one of the largest and most important cooperatives in the world, I think, is very helpful as we look at how we can really facilitate development and self-sufficiency and sustainability overseas. So without further ado, my friend Chris Policinski, President and CEO of Land O'Lakes.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Thanks, Dan, for that very nice introduction. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to jump right into my presentation. The first thing I want to say is I think you have a great theme for this meeting and for the report that the Chicago Council has generated. Capitalizing on the power of science, trade, and business. You know, it's not just a theme of a meeting or a report, it is exactly what we need to do to feed the soon-to-be 9 billion people on the planet in an increasingly sustainable way. I also think it's a great theme because I've already had some conversations in the hallway, and like all Chicago Council meetings, all of you will go do great stuff. You'll be energized by this theme, and you'll commit or really recommit to the great work that you do in food insecure parts of the world where help is needed, and that's fantastic. But my comments today, and I want to try and do them in 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through this fast, are really focused on the belief that I have and that Land O'Lakes has, that that's not enough, that we have to continue that work, but we have to add some new work to it. And the good news is I don't think the new work is all that hard, but it's going to take some focus. The new work is something we need to do right here and right now. Specifically, it is, if you're involved in food and agriculture or in global development, we need to engage the broader population in a discussion about the theme of this meeting. How to capitalize on the power of science, trade, and business to end hunger and poverty. Because I have to tell you, the debate we have in this room isn't the same debate that I hear when I talk to farmers, nor the same debate that I hear when we go out and talk to consumers. So a little bit about Land O'Lakes, just 30 seconds, and why we have this view. Most of you know us as a global development company in this room, or hopefully as a branded butter company, and that's accurate. But I'd like you to think about us in the vein that Dan said. We are a $15 billion agribusiness company that's been around for about 100 years. Started by farmers and owned by farmers. But we are one of the rare, and maybe unique because of the farmer-owned part of this, companies that sees the food system from end to end, really. You heard Raj talk about that. But every morning we get up and we have a large crop inputs business. Seed, crop protection products, we're out in the field with farmers. We also have a large consulting business around precision agriculture and agronomic advice. We talk with farmers. We also have the largest, or certainly one of the largest animal feed companies in North America with our Purina business. We talk to folks involved in animal agriculture. We also participate in the entire spectrum of the food industry. Primary production of dairy commodities, further value-added manufacturing and B2B sales of those products, and the marketing and sales of highly branded goods. On a bad day, that drives us crazy. But on a good day, it gives us some insights. And this chart is meant to remind me to say, we don't think we're smarter than any of the great companies in the food industry, many of them here today. But they focus on segments of the industry. They're branded goods marketers, or they're crop inputs providers. Rarely do you have it all put together. And even more rare is this farmer-owned aspect and the global development footprint we've had doing work with many of you in this room in 76 countries, 275 projects over the years. What has that shown us? Well, it's shown us that the discussion among these segments is very different. When we're out talking to production agriculture folks, this is the story. The great untold productivity story of American agriculture. This chart's very simple. The flat line is the value of inputs since 1930 used in agriculture: land, labor, capital, seed, fertilizer, whatever. The upward sloping line is the value of outputs, the value of all crop, livestock, dairy. What you can see is a great productivity story. We're getting 2.5 times more output for flat inputs. Terrific story. It's also a sustainability story. The fun facts below this chart are also worth noting. In the 1930s, every farmer fed 10 people. Today, it's over 150. In the 1930s, we as a country spent about a quarter of our income on food. Today, it's the lowest in the world. It's less than 10%, and that includes food away from home. The far right fun fact, I'll come back to this later. We've been so productive, we went from a society where 22% of America farmed a generation and a half ago, not all that long ago, to a society where less than 2% of America farms. So when we get together with farmers, they talk about this great productivity story. Guess what? They talk about it among themselves. We get together with groups like this, and you know this story better than I do. We got to get more food to feed a hungry planet today and the soon-to-be 9 billion people. We got to increase food by 60 to 70% between now and 2050. That means twice as much dairy, twice as much meat, and 50% more cereal. We talk about it a lot. We're talking about it today. By the way, can it be done? One of my favorite snapshots of the productivity story, corn production. Since 1930, we're growing 6.5 times more corn on 13% fewer acres. Can we meet the needs, the food needs of a 9 billion person planet? Yes. Can we do it in an increasingly sustainable way? Yes. How was this productivity story developed? Fundamentally, two things. The adoption of modern business practices on farm. One family farmer bought out the next. They got bigger. As they got bigger, they were able to employ capital, not just labor, and more sophisticated on-farm management. Also, the second driver, the use, the safe application of proven technology. Everything from mechanization and harvesting to the phenomenal seed products that are drought resistant and have other characteristics. Yet, when we get out into broader society, we see a disconnect. When we go all the way up the front end of our food business into the consumer marketplace, among the 98% of America that's not directly involved in agriculture, there aren't any bad actors, but this 98% doesn't know where their food comes from. And the discussion increasingly is about good or bad food based on production technique. Large farms or small farms. Technology or no technology. And the challenge I would give to all of you is to actively engage in this discussion. And all we have to do is change one word in the discussion. It's not one or the other, big or small, aggressive use of technology or no technology. We need both. We need large farms to produce a lot of high-quality food at low cost to meet the demands of a growing population. We also need small farms who ultimately become larger farms, who are great at using technology and providing innovative practices and fueling local economic systems, in a sense, fueling rural economies, because large farms need rural economies to exist. So the challenge to all of you, in just a couple more slides, is a call to action. All the great work we're doing to address current food insecurity has to continue. But I would argue that we have to engage in a discussion with broader society to make sure that farmers are allowed to use or choose to use the business practices that have fueled that great productivity story in the past. By the way, the stakes are high. You saw a version of this chart earlier, I think from Raj. This chart just shows what happens when you see food price spikes, food insecurity, if you will. Food security goes to economic stability, goes to political stability, and the gate swings the other way. So the stakes are high, but I would argue the facts are very friendly if we can just change one word, or to and. Thank you very much.